Hi there, I'm David. This is the first part of a series of videos that I've created about ourDars. ourDars is an application that implements a decision analysis and resolution process, or DAR process, which is based on CMMI's decision analysis and resolution process. CMI is a capability maturity model, and this is one of the processes in this process. It's very important because it formalizes and sets up a decision process for an organization that can be followed, and having it in an application just allows that to be automated and running much more smoothly than it otherwise would. So like I said, this is a series of videos. This first video is about the overall DAR workflow implemented by ourDars application. This will go through where a DAR is first identified as a need, or a decision is identified as a need, and the steps in the workflow to get that DAR first defined and created. That's just the start of the process. After that, there's various stages where people can evaluate various solutions and decide on what that solution should be, and getting sign-off by stakeholders. This first part of the workflow is broken into two parts. So this is part one, and then part two will go through the steps after the initial creation of the DAR. So let's go through. What I'm going to do here is create a new DAR and put the initial definition of that DAR, or decision analysis and resolution document, into ourDars. So the first thing I need to do is sign on. So I'm going to sign on as a project manager. In this case, I've set up the user code, so the project manager has the ability to create a DAR, and that might be the normal process and policy inside an enterprise, to have the project managers the ones who own the DARs for their particular projects. So in this case, I'm going to sign in using an email sign-in method, but there's other authentication methods supported. So this PM mark is the one I'm going to use, and I'll sign in, and you'll see here that in my menu I have the Create DAR option, because this user's been set up to be a DAR creator. I'm going to click on that. That opens up the DAR form in create mode, but you'll see the create buttons grayed out at the moment until we put some basic information in. The information I'm going to put in for this DAR is a title, and this DAR is about our team wanting to select the programming language they're going to use for their project. We enter a description or more information about the DAR. There we go. Okay, so we say this team's making this decision because they've got a mix of skills inside the team, C# and JavaScript developers, so they need to decide which way they're going to go with the DAR creation. By default, when you first create a DAR, the initial status is design, and you'll see later on that you sometimes need to go back to design for the DAR owner to update details about the DAR. An important decision right at the beginning, and something that should be worked out before creating a DAR, is what methodology is going to be used. And ourDars support three workflows or methodologies. If you look in the manual, you'll see there's a workflow diagram that explains or describes in detail what the flow is for these various methodologies, but just know there's the process one, where the expectation is that the DAR will go through an evaluation process. Decision on which solution to choose will be made based on the scoring from that evaluation process, and there won't be any voting that happens. The other main process type is to vote, and this is called a political process, because it doesn't depend so much or totally on what the evaluation is, or a formal evaluation of the solutions, but in the end it's political, because it's up to team members or the people making the votes to decide which solution they like the best. And sometimes this makes more sense for certain decisions that need to be made. So the second process is vote. And the third one is the hybrid one. So this is taking a part of both worlds. So with the hybrid, an evaluation is expected to be done and will be done, and the evaluation will be made available to the voters, and then the voters can decide what they want to vote for, based both on the evaluation or on any outside influences that they may have that would decide the vote as well. So kind of a third case is this hybrid method. I'm actually going to use hybrid in this case because I want to show both evaluation and voting happening against this star. The rest of the information here is optional. So target date, if you want to set a target date, you can set that up. So let me just put one in. A team that is associated with this star. I'm not going to select one, but if you do select a team, then that can make choosing participants easier, because you can just filter by the team as well. So if it's just a subgroup of the enterprise or department in the company, or one project in the company, if people are set up to be associated with that team, then it makes it easier to choose them. Also later on, for filtering and viewing DARs, you can view just the ones for a particular team. The rest of the information here is chosen solution. So this isn't done until the evaluation or the voting has been done and gets filled in by the owner of the DAR. Other information here is any text you want to enter about what risks are involved in the choice. So I'll put some text in here just as an example. The next field is constraints, so any constraints associated with the decision, or why this decision has certain parameters about how it should be decided. So in this case, I'm saying that there's only C# and JavaScript skills in the team, so we wouldn't want to look at a language outside those two. And the other information that can be entered is cause. So what caused the decision to be made. You see here, as soon as I put the title and the description in, the create button was enabled. So I'm going to click on create. This takes me back to the ourDars listing, and then the new DAR is shown in the list of ourDars for me, who is PM Mark. So the action available to me is to edit that DAR, and you'll see here all that information. So here it tells me I can't move on from the design stage until voters and or until participants, criteria and solutions are entered for this DAR. So let's finish this off. So I'm going to add some new users. So I'm going to say that there's the VP of Sales is a stakeholder. So I'm going through the participants here. I'm going to also add engineer Anne as a voter. So I click on voter. And another participant I'm going to need for this one, because we also have an evaluation process, is we need an evaluator. So I'm going to choose engineer Bob as an evaluator. You can also add someone as a reader, so that means they don't have any active part in the DAR process, but can view the DAR as it's progressing. So let me put that. So there's our 4 participants. You'll notice that PM Mark, who created this, is automatically in as the owner. Let's add some criteria. So important part of DAR process is to have formal criteria defined up front. So I'm going to have 3 criteria for this particular DAR. So going to click on New Criteria. So one criteria is there must be skills in the team for this for the solution. So and then a bit more of a description about that criteria, how someone would evaluate a solution against that criteria. Also, the important thing is the weighting for that criteria. So in this case, it's important, and that will affect how the scoring is done for that. So let me create that one. I'm going to create another criteria. This one's about beauty and style of the language. Again, a bit of information about how that criteria gets evaluated, why it gets evaluated. In this case, it's just desirable, so nice to have, but isn't a critical one, so the weighting given to this will be different from the skills in the team. I'm going to have one more criteria. So this one says it's associated with the budget, so we've got a set budget for this project. And again, more of a description about how that criteria gets evaluated. And this one's critical, so we can't go ahead unless we meet this particular criteria. So let me create that. So now we've got our 3 criteria associated with it. So the last part of this is to add some possible solutions. So what I'm going to put in here for this particular decision is the first possible solution is a mixture of JavaScript and Firebase as the development languages and associated infrastructure. And more of a description about it. We can also add in some information in the evaluation notes to help someone who's doing the evaluation. So in this case, I'm going to put some more information about where you find out more about JavaScript and Firebase. Looks good, so I'm going to create that solution, and we need one more solution to make a decision against. So the second choice, because members of the team also know C#, is to use C# and Azure. And a description about what that is. And same thing here is to help the people doing the evaluation is where to find more information about the programming language and Azure. And I think that's it. Okay, so now we've got the whole DAR defined. Let me go back to ourDars, and you'll see one option in the ourDars is to click on the title of the DAR. This takes you to the DAR viewer, which gives you a complete printout or view of the DAR. So this is useful if you want to archive the DAR, or if other members of the team or participants want to view the DAR at the moment.